romantic tenderness in the story I want to read you, so if you feel to take the hand of your sweetheart or lay your head on the shoulder of the one you love, or just the one sitting next to you, then I would encourage you to indulge that impulse. And there's another thing that I want you to know about the story is the narrator is a lady. And you would know that just from reading the first line because she mentions that she's wearing a nightgown, and I think that even in today's society that's a bit of a giveaway, but just so that you don't picture me wearing a nightgown, unless it's too late. So you don't picture me wearing a nightgown again. I'm just telling you that the narrator is a lady. This is a short story, and I call it Bring the Jackets. I'm still in my nightgown, but Terry's got the car almost packed. I sit in the kitchen and watch him through the window. He's made about 20 trips so far. Sometimes he takes just one thing with him, like just a water jug. Other times he takes a big armload of stuff and drops it in the driveway as he goes. A couple of times he goes out and brings something back into the house. He props open the door with Maisie's big wheel and trips over it as he comes back in. On the next trip, he's got the big red ice chest with my beach bag on top. He stops at the kitchen and says, "Babe, want me to grab you a jacket?" I wish. A couple hours of rain would be a perfect excuse to stay home, but the sky is an ugly, spotless blue. What makes you think we're going to need jackets, I say. It's supposed to be windy and cold up there later. Internet even said so. It's 8 in the morning and he's sweating already. His glasses slide down to the tip of his nose and he wiggles his face to keep them from falling off. How many years have we been going, I ask. Not once have we ever needed jackets. So you want me to bring them? Sure. Bring the jackets, babe. Bring your mittens while you're at it. He goes on out and throws his weight behind the cooler to cram it into the hatchback, but he bangs his head on the edge of the car. The beach bag falls and my books and sunglasses spill out. Terry rubs his head, then bends down to pick up my things. His ass crack emerges into the perfect sunlight. Usually I'm the one prodding him to get ready. If anyone has a right to hate my family's big camping trip, it's Terry. He's the one my brothers pick on. He's the one who gets pantsed or shoved in the water. My dad won't do anything about it. Last year I said, "Daddy, you've got to do something about Derek. Tell him to lay off Terry." He said, "Ah, Shelley, that'd just be blood in the water." I'm not sure how things got turned around, but Terry comes in and says, "All packed." He's so sweaty he has to change his t-shirt, jiggling all over as he pulls a fresh one over his belly. It's his favorite, black, with a picture of some new military jet that costs $1 bazillion. "When are you going to get ready?" He puffs, combing down his hair with his hand. "What if we didn't go?" I ask. "We could stay here and grill some chicken." He says, "You don't like it when I grill. You say it's never cooked all the way." "Well, we'll go out then." "Nah," he says, your family would kill us. You even said so. Why don't you want to go?" "I don't know. Derek and Brian can be such jerks." He waves his hands. I just ignore him. "Derek pushed you in the lake last year," I remind him. "You just about lost your inhaler." He shakes his head. "You're going to want to talk to your mom. Maisie's been dying to see the cousins. Come on, we got to get moving if we want a good spot." He goes down the hall and calls Maisie, and I get in the shower. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to go to the lake. It's where I learned to swim, where I first kissed a boy. July 4th weekend, we'd play so hard we'd fall asleep in the back of Uncle Ricky's truck, well before the first fireworks exploded out over the lake. I sit on the bed in my wet hair thinking of things we could do if we didn't go. Nap in the backyard, read. Maisie would run in the sprinkler, her panties wet and sagging. We'd light sparklers. Terry gives the horn a couple quick toots to keep me moving. I pull on a sleeveless collared shirt that makes me look a little less chubby. When I come out, Terry opens the door for me and I slump into the car. Maisie's already strapped into her car seat. I buckle up as Terry hustles around to the driver's side. He gets in and we back out onto the street. "Seatbelt, Daddy." He puts on his seatbelt as we take a corner and we just about sideswipe Mrs. Schultz in her Oldsmobile. "Slow down, babe. Geez," I say. "Yeah, Daddy, geez," says me. Terry eases up, but it seems like he's leaning forward, like it'll make us go faster. I watch him as we pass the houses and cul-de-sacs. He's grinning a little, but with the same expression he gets when he finally decides to jump off the high dive at the city pool. "What?" I ask him. "What is with you?" He shrugs. "I'm just excited." We drive through town and get on the frontage road. He's definitely leaning forward, definitely grinning. Have you got some sort of plan, I ask? Are you going to try to pull something on my brothers? Terry looks at the speedometer for no reason. You can't beat them, Terry. Derek will see you coming from a mile away. He glances over, shows me the grin. Oh, you are planning something. This is so not a good idea. He says, I just want to get there, okay? We gotta get a good spot this year. That's true. Dad always reserves a huge camping area, but if we're late, we'll have to camp by the water with the mosquitoes or on the hillside where everything's slanted. I quiz Terry about what he packed. He hands me his phone. Here, open the first checklist. I scroll through it. It's everything I packed, plus a few things I forget, like the marshmallow sticks. It's a good list, and I'm getting ready to say so when I see the last item. Kite. I look up from the phone. Kite? You brought the kite? He looks at the speedometer. The kite is a sensitive subject. It's not a regular kite, like from the supermarket. It's a special stunt kite, and Terry put it on our credit card without telling me. This was 5 or 6 years ago, before we had Maisie, before Terry started working at Bar Kane. It cost a lot of money, and we didn't have a lot of money. I knew why he wanted it. Not very many people get to be exactly what they want to be in life, and that's too bad. But some people want to be the one thing that they can never be, and that's Terry. He wanted to be a fighter pilot. He loves jets and knows everything about them, but he's got so many health issues, he never had a prayer of going into the military, let alone getting close to any jets. Terry's mom once told me the Air Force recruiter wouldn't even give him a free t-shirt. Terry's a great programmer, but get him close to any airplane and he gets a look in his eyes like a kid seeing the only Christmas present he wants, knowing he'll never get it. So I let him keep the kite, grudgingly. The lake would be a great place to fly it, but Terry knows I don't even like to look at the thing, and it's still one of the things we fight about. He has to go to a park on the other side of town to fly it. He's in a kite club with his buddies, and they all fly their kites together without wives. They buy things for their kites and pamper them. So you're going to be off flying your kite the whole time, I said. No, not the whole time. I hate that kite. You've never even seen me fly it, he says. I'm one of the best in the club now. Josh even said so. As if bringing Josh is going to help. Josh, president of the Kite Boy Club. Well, Maisie's excited to see me fly, right, sweetie? Maisie hides her face with her arms and says, I'm not supposed to say anything about it to Mommy. Mommy knows about it now, I tell her, and that's when I get it. His favorite t-shirt, his diving board grin. Sorry, I lost my place. His favorite t-shirt, his diving board grin. Is this your plan? Is the kite your plan? He stops grinning. Oh, Terry, no, this can't be a plan. He clams up, but he speeds the rest of the way, so we're nice and early. The camping area is a big grassy oval at the north end of the lake. There's a wall of cottonwoods on one side and brushy hills on the other. Gravelly beach between the willows. Derek isn't there yet, so the space next to my dad's camp trailer is open. You think Derek will be mad if we set up right next to you, I asked my dad. Yeah, he'll get over it. He knows to get here early. Terry and I put up our tent without talking much. The sun climbs and more people show up. Pretty soon Maisie is swept away in a swarm of cousins. They go to the water and throw rocks, the same ones I threw when I was little. The water is so smooth, the rings expand way out into the lake like they could spread to the other side. I wonder where Derek is, says Terry. My parents sit in their deluxe camp chairs and shrug in unison. They both sit the same way, slumped down, right leg crossed over left, arms draped on the armrests, king and queen of the campground. I unfold a chair and sit next to them. Terry sits on the ground. He pulls up handfuls of grass and throws it into the air, checking for wind, but it falls straight down. It's lunchtime before Derek pulls into the campground in his enormous Chevy. It glitters with so much chrome my mom shades her eyes to look at it. We can hear the thumping music all the way across the campground. Behind the truck is a trailer with 2 jet skis. What an outfit, says Dad, shaking his head. Hurts my eyes, says Mom. The kids hoard around as Derek dismounts the truck, even though they know it will probably be tomorrow before he gives out any jet ski rides. Derek towers above even the tallest of the cousins, wider than any 2. He looks the place over as if he's just conquered it. Brooke hops out of the other side. Huge sunglasses hide everything but the tip of her nose and her mouth and some of her forehead. Then Brian swings in. His truck is smaller than Derek's, but just as loud and shiny. He gets out. Derek grabs him and they wrestle. The kids back away. It's like watching two buffalo fight for territory. Pretty soon, Brian's in a chokehold. His face turns purple before Derek lets him go. Brittany gets out of Brian's truck and finds her place next to Brooke. They mince through the grass in their high-heeled sandals like they're afraid they'll step in something vile. Stevie, Brooke warns one of the cousins, keep those muddy paws off of me. The two wives have the same big sunglasses, the same crisp, pale clothes. Brittany's skinny, but not as skinny as Brooke. No one can be as skinny as Brooke. They come over and give Mom and Dad hugs without really touching them. How you guys doing, says Brooke. We've been meaning to come over. How are you getting around? Mom and Dad look at each other. Getting around what, says Dad. Brittany stands with her arms tightly folded. She keeps adjusting the way her bangs lay across her forehead as if it's the one thing she can do without permission from Brooke. Brooke touches Mom's arm and says, tell me you brought your fried chicken. Sure, says Mom. Want a piece? Oh, no, she says. She pats her flat, featureless tummy as though this explains her answer. But I've got to get that recipe. I can't help myself. I say, Brooke, you cook. Brooke fakes a laugh. Mom shoots me a look. Dad laughs for real. Jelly, coos Brooke. Look at you, girl. I can see why you always wear that shirt. She leans in for the no-touch hug and says, it really slims you down. Derek and Brian set up a couple of camp chairs, and Brooke and Brittany go and sit and thumb their phones. Then Derek comes toward us with his tent. It's a 6-man cabin tent, but it's tucked under his arm like a newspaper. When I was a kid, I loved all my brothers and sisters, but Derek was my favorite. I thought he was a happy, big-hearted kid. And when I left for college, I thought I'd lose track of him. But instead, I got to know him a lot better. I finally saw him the way other people did, and I understood why some people never liked him or were afraid of him. Derek looks at Dad's camper, and then our tent, and then Terry. Terry doesn't move. Derek throws down his tent. Terry, why'd you stick your tent right here? Dad says, well, son, it's called camping. But if he'd move it 10 feet over, me and Bri could put our tents in here. He's hogging all the room. We got the whole campground. How much room did you need, says Dad. Derek glares at Terry and snorts. Terry looks down, and I should be embarrassed for him, but I don't want to think about what would happen if we tried to stand up to Derek. Dad points across the campground. There's some spots over by Ricky's fire pit. I don't want to sleep by Ricky. He snores. Mom pipes up. So do you, sweetheart. Fine, says Derek. He scoops up the tent and glares at Terry again. Damn waste of space, though. Language, says Mom. We're camping over there, Derek yells at Brian. Too crowded over here. See that, Shelley? Blood in the water. Derek opens a beer and recruits some kids to set up his tent. He heckles them and trips them while they work. Brian sets up his own tent. Derek heckles him too. When they finish, they throw off their shirts and back the trailer down the gravelly beach. The jet skis float free and they climb on. Kids crowd along the shore and watch. Brian turns for open water, but Derek races straight at the kids. When he's 20 feet from shore, he turns hard and sprays them all with a big sheet of water. Then he's gone too. The kids stand dripping as the machine sounds fade. Terry heads straight for the car, and he's back in 1 minute with his kite bag. It's got special pockets for all the controls and spools. He lays it all out and looks over at the kids, but they're still down at the shoreline. He kneels down, reviving the kite like it's some huge, sleepy bat. It's almost as wide as he is tall. What's he got over there, says Dad. I sigh. It's a kite. Looks like a hang glider. A few kids spot Terry and watch him from a distance. He positions the kite and trails the strings on the grass. Stevie and a couple other kids wander over. There's no wind, says Mom. It's a special kite, I tell her. It doesn't need wind. Terry motions the kids to stand back. He says, please don't step on the lines, okay, you guys? Stevie stamps on them and then runs off. The rest of them stick around. When everything's ready, Terry puts his headphones in and stands with his head down. Like what he will do next is important. He takes up the handles. They're marionette paddles, but styled like the controls of a jet. Then, in a step to the music that we can't hear, Terry pulls the controls and shuffles backwards. His belly jiggles like mad, but his movements are weirdly graceful. The kite lifts 50 feet into the air, and the kids cheer. Dad flips up his sunglasses and says, would you look at that? Terry yanks one handle and the kite peels off to one side. The kids run following with upturned faces and arms reaching skyward. A cool breeze starts up. It freezes the sweat on our necks, but that little bit of movement lets Terry put on a show. The kite soars, stalls, then plunges down and almost hits the ground before turning up again. The kids chase it. Terry looks over his shoulder at me. Through his glasses, I see his eyes blaze deliriously. I wave a little, and he laughs like a boy. This goes on for over an hour. I sit catching up with Mom and Dad, but we have to pause to clap for the good tricks. Everyone's watching now. The kids have their chairs set up like an audience. Even Brooke and Brittany look up from their phones from time to time. Mom says, "I like it when it almost crashes," and he saves it at the last second. I like the figure eight, says Dad. Something is happening out on the lake. Hot air colliding with wet air or cool air. Terry could explain it, but the result is a line of clouds with gray underneath, forming on the south side of the lake. The breeze picks up and waves march into shore. Dad flips up his sunglasses and scans the water. "Those boys ought to get back," he says. "Getting choppy out there." The lake wind sends the kite into endless corkscrews. Terry's face turns red and he's breathing hard. He leaps over the kite strings and holds the handles behind his back. Uncle Ricky laughs and shakes his head. Only Dad and I notice when Derek and Brian bounce over the waves and glide into shore. No kids mob them. No one asks for a ride. They trailer up the jet skis and dry off. Then they walk around the campground talking loud, but everyone's watching the kite dip and swoop. Terry brings it low for the kids to pet it. It hovers nearly motionless a few feet off the ground. The kids touch it and jerk their hands back like it's a living thing, and then they run away squealing. Derek and Brian point and smirk. They get a football out and try to draft Uncle Ricky and others into a game, but no one wants to play. So they toss the ball to each other and watch Terry with his kite. Dad points at the kite and says, "Oh, did you see that one?" But I catch him sneaking glances at the boys. Then Derek motions Brian to go long. Brian runs, jumps over the kids, and when he's under the kite, Derek launches the ball. It looks like he's too far away to hit the kite, but the wind carries the throw beyond even Derek's range, and we gasp as the ball smacks into the kite like a missile. The kite veers over, collapsing. Something in it has come apart or snapped. It dives noisily into the grass, where it flutters like a wounded pterodactyl. Terry whips around to see where the ball came from. Everyone does. All eyes go to Derek. He stands there grinning, arms folded. Groans rise in a chorus above the wind. "It was an accident," he shouts. "Daddy," I say, "will you do something?" Daddy holds up his hand and watches. Terry yanks out his headphones. His hair blows around in the wind. He kneels at the crash site and examines the great injured bird. The kids circle around him. "Is she broken?" says Maisie. "Nah," says Terry. "She's just fine." When the kite rushes up the wind again, the whole campground roars. It loops up and up. The kids hoot. Derek sets his hands on his hips and spits in the grass. Then the kite turns and begins to cross the campground. I look down and Terry's on the move. He walks the kite over to Derek, and when he stops, the kite is 20 feet above Derek's head. Derek sneers and steps to one side. The kite follows. Everyone laughs. My heart sinks a little, and it occurs to me that I've never been concerned about Derek humiliating Terry. It was always the opposite that worried me. Terry tightens his grips on the handles and makes a move like kung fu. The kite rips down towards Derek, and he loses his composure, fleeing and stumbling through the grass. The nylon skin crackles like a machine gun as the kite streaks past. Derek staggers along. Terry tracks him with the kite. Somehow Derek comes up with the football and fires it into the air. He manages a glancing blow, but the kite stays up. Derek dodges another attack, gets the ball, throws again. The battle goes on until they're almost at the water. Mom and Dad stand up, head to the shore. Everyone else has the same idea. "Bring it down here," growls Derek. "Give me a clean shot and your baby toy's history." Terry stands with his back to the water. He lowers the kite so that it hovers in front of Derek, rattling like crazy. Derek fakes a throw. The kite doesn't move. He hurls the football and Terry rears back. The kite leaps clear and the ball spirals out over the lake. It splashes down and bobs in the water. Another roar of approval. Uncle Ricky runs out to pat Terry on the back. Everyone crowds around. Dad turns to me. "See that, Shelley?" Terry shows Uncle Ricky how to work the controls. Uncle Ricky hangs on and the kite wobbles through a few turns. Would you look at that, laughs Uncle Ricky. Maisie climbs onto Terry and reaches up into the air after the kite. Oh, she's freezing, says Terry. Mom says, I've got some jackets in the trailer. That's okay, I say. I slip my arm around Terry's waist. We've got some in the car. Thank you.